The historic Old Scott County Jail has been a staple in the Huntsville, Tennessee community since its construction in 1904. It went on to serve Scott County for 104 years, closing its doors for good as the local jail in 2008. Still, after 104 years of faithful duty to both serve and protect the public from those incarcerated within its stout sandstone walls, there's bound to be some ghost lore here, my little strangelings, and boy, is there ever. We're going to go back to the height of the Prohibition era for this one. The year was 1925, and the Scott County's sheriff at the time, Mr. Richard Ellis, was a stickler for the law, and the law at the time was that alcohol and spirits of any kind were strictly forbidden. The hills of East Tennessee were rife with moonshiners, illegally crafting and bootlegging spirits all up and down these hills and hollers. It put Sheriff Ellis at odds with some of his constituents, but that wasn't his fault. He was a lawman, and the law stated that the craft, sale, distribution, and consumption of any alcoholic beverage was against the 18th Amendment of the United States Constitution at the time. To that end, Richard Ellis took a hard line against the illegal manufacture, sale, and distribution of liquor in his county, and was pretty much in an all-out war with the moonshiners and bootleggers of the time. It was a humid and sultry August night in 1925 that Ellis had the misfortune to catch himself a ne'er-do-well. He was bringing the man in, walking him to the back of the historic Scott County Jail, when the building was still fairly new, when out of the shadows a pair of men crept up behind the sheriff and his quarry. One of the ambushers pulled the trigger 3 times, shooting Sheriff Ellis in the back, one of the shots taking the lawman in the back of the head. I can picture the sorry scene of the ambush entirely too well, my little strangelings, the loud clap of thunder of the shotgun's blast, the barrel belching gun smoke and flame, and poor Sheriff Ellis's head coming apart in a welter of blood and bone, as well as heavier and wetter things. The man he picked up surprisingly didn't try to make an escape with the 2 that had ambushed the sheriff. Instead, he stood and sounded the alarm, screaming into the night that the sheriff had been shot and was dead. Meanwhile, the 2 ambushers got clean away, my little strangelings, disappearing over the ridge the jail sits on, sliding down to the banks of the river behind it, and making their escape down that very river. To this day, the murder of Sheriff Ellis remains one of Scott County's most famous and most enduring unsolved homicide cases, 99 years and counting. Of course, for us, that's just where our story begins, because Sheriff Ellis, ever the dedicated lawman, reportedly continues to carry out his duties around the Scott County Jail nigh going on 100 years after his tragic death. It is said, when the jail is quiet, you can sometimes hear Sheriff Ellis's echoing footfalls as he continues to make his rounds. Doors will softly close and secure that he deems are meant to remain secure, even though this is no longer a functioning jail, but rather a living history museum. Finally, it's said that if you are really, really quiet and really, really still, you can hear Ellis's masculine voice singing quietly to himself as he moves through hallways and up and down staircase within the jail's thick sandstone walls. I like to think that he's still here, keeping the peace in the old jail building and making sure the inmates that may still linger are kept both in check and well taken care of. But that's a story for another day. Until that day, as ever, happy hauntings, my little strangelings.